This Richardson article is dated September 22, 2020. Information Commissioner Elizabeth Denham argues for President Tsai Ing-wen thesis secrecy in Freedom of Information case and ridicules members of public seeking truth. The caption reads, Republic of China in exile President Tsai Ing-wen's controversial 1984 PhD thesis and United Kingdom Information Commissioner Elizabeth Denham. The latest decision in a growing number of Freedom of Information cases over Republic of China in exile President Tsai Ing-wen's 1984 PhD thesis brings ridicule from United Kingdom Information Commissioner Elizabeth Denham. The controversial thesis started an academic firestorm last year when Tsai Ing-wen filed her thesis entitled Unfair Trade Practices and Safeguard Actions with the London School of Economics Library 35 years late. The thesis submitted by Tsai, after much prodding by Taiwanese social media, appears to be a draft document with footnote issues, pagination problems, and handwritten marks and notations. The thesis, which was to be filed with 3 British libraries, could not be found in any of them prior to June 2019. Tsai refuses to name the 2 thesis examiners who purportedly approved the thesis after a Sunday Viva exam on October 16, 1983. President Tsai's stonewalling, combined with conflicting stories from the London School of Economics and the University of London, have led to a half-dozen Freedom of Information requests from different people for further information about the thesis and the circumstances surrounding its long absence from the library. The University of London has blamed Senate House Library staff with losing its copy. However, the university has yet to provide acquisition documentation that the library actually did receive the thesis in 1984. Some scholars have suggested that Tsai never completed her course of study and did not submit an approved final thesis as required. The various requests to the 2 schools have been refused, where they are piling up at the Information Commissioner's office. The ICO has denied my request for the names of the 2 thesis examiners, saying that disclosing the identities might cause President Tsai distress and violate her right to privacy. Now, Information Commissioner Denham has denied a scholar's request for further information about the October 16, 1983 Viva session. In upholding the secrecy of the Viva, the ICO decision went much further than simply telling the scholar the Viva is off limits to inquiry. Instead, Denham abandoned her role as a neutral enforcement officer of the Freedom of Information Act and became President Tsai's personal advocate, adopting, without proof from student and library records, Tsai's claim of timely thesis submission. Further, Denham's decision goes beyond the scholar's request and ridicules alleged proponents of fake thesis theories. Denham's views of a skeptical and questioning Taiwanese public are laced with sarcasm and derision. The language of the ICO decision speaks for itself and reveals Denham's abandonment of regulatory neutrality. The then Miss Tsai was awarded a PhD in 1984 by the university which, at that time, conferred degrees on students of the London School of Economics and Political Science, which did not have its own degree awarding powers. The original thesis that Ms. Tsai submitted has been lost in the intervening years. The complainant drew to the commissioner's attention the controversy surrounding President Tsai's thesis. He argued that there was a public interest in understanding how President Tsai had come by her PhD given that she had made frequent reference to her degree. This is not the first time the commissioner has had to deal with requests related to President Tsai. The commissioner finds it somewhat difficult to describe the fake thesis/degree theory as it lacks coherence. In broad terms, the theory alleges that the university or the LSE, the corrupt institution varies from allegation to allegation, conspired in 1984 to award the then Miss Tsai a PhD to which she was not entitled, presumably for the express purpose of manipulating the Taiwanese presidential elections of 2016 and 2020, and is now trying to cover its tracks. Another alternative theory is that the PhD was never conferred, and President Tsai has simply invented it. According to this version, the LSE and/or the university have conspired to fabricate the original records and the degree award to either curry favor with government of Taiwan or to increase their own prestige by associating themselves with a head of government. Whilst the commissioner does not consider that the keenest fake thesis theory supporters would be satisfied by any information that the university could produce, she does accept that information of this type would shed some light on the way the university previously awarded degrees and whether, in this particular case, that process was followed correctly, especially given President Tsai's prominent role in public life. The Commissioner considers that the negligible public interest in this case are considerably outweighed by President Tsai's right to privacy. The Commissioner also notes that President Tsai has filed a defamation suit against individuals who have questioned the authenticity of her PhD and thesis. President Tsai has not given her consent to the disclosure of this information as far as the Commissioner is aware. If the university were to disclose President Tsai's personal data, it would be doing so without her consent and contrary to her reasonable expectations. The Commissioner considers that this would cause considerable distress, given that contemporaneous records exist demonstrating that a PhD was conferred upon President Tsai, undermining the argument the PhD was created at a later date. In order for the 1984 conspiracy to make sense, the Commissioner is being asked to attribute extraordinary powers of foresight to the university. In order for the fake thesis theory to make sense, the university must have considered the then Miss Tsai to have been so remarkable a student that it was worthwhile disregarding the usual safeguards of academic integrity so that in 30 years' time, she would be more likely to win a presidential election. The Commissioner considers such a proposition to be fanciful at best. The scholar, who wishes not to be named, did not advance any fake thesis theory, but merely asked about the scope of President Tsai's Viva session. An appeal is planned of the ICO decision to the Information Review Tribunal, where a judge will decide if the Viva inquiry may proceed. This Richardson article dated October 20th, 2020 reads, Republic of China in exile prosecutors issue subpoenas to President Tsai Ing-wen thesis critics He Defen and Dennis Peng. The caption reads, activist attorney and law professor He Defen and True Voice of Taiwan TV show host Dennis Peng have been subpoenaed by Republic of China in exile prosecutors for their criticism of ROC President Tsai Ing-wen's controversial 1984 PhD thesis. Taipei district prosecutors in the Republic of China in exile government ruling Taiwan issued subpoenas for two professors, He Defen and Dennis Peng, for criminal defamation. Over a year ago, September 19, 2019, ROC President Tsai Ing-wen complained to prosecutors about three professors who Tsai said defamed her with comments on her controversial 1984 PhD degree from the London School of Economics. He Defen is a law professor, while Dennis Peng teaches media classes and hosts the True Voice of Taiwan internet television program. The third professor, Huang Lin, lives in the United States and has not yet been served with a court summons. He Defen, an activist attorney, signaled she is gearing up for a major court battle by refusing to answer the subpoena and appear in court. Dennis Peng took the opposite approach and confessed to criticizing President Tsai's thesis. Peng told the prosecutor to seek the death penalty because he was completely guilty. Peng, a polished showman, may prove to be a difficult defendant in a case that oozes politics, is riddled with questions, and has an international audience. Tsai started the controversy in June 2019 when she filed, 35 years late, a copy of her 1984 PhD thesis with the London School of Economics Library, where she attended school. The tardy thesis entitled Unfair Trade Practices and Safeguard Actions triggered an academic firestorm with accusations of fraud, unfinished work, and an unearned degree. The 2019 thesis copy appears to be a draft document with footnote issues, pagination problems, and handwritten marks including a question mark. Tsai held fast in both LSE and the University of London, which actually awarded Tsai her degree, stuck by the story that Tsai honestly earned her diploma. The thesis controversy briefly became an issue in President Tsai's re-election campaign, but died down after she won a second term. Critics of Tsai continued to question the events of 1983 to 84 in London that led to her degree. Freedom of information requests flowed to both schools, which continued to refuse to answer questions about the thesis. The University of London presently refuses to name the two thesis examiners who approved the thesis and will not even confirm if consideration was given to Tsai's master degree. The London School of Economics refuses to give up internal emails about the thesis. The refusals to answer questions or disclose records of the thesis Viva examination, purportedly held on a Sunday in October 1983, led to complaints to the United Kingdom Information Commissioner. At least 4 complaints to the Information Commissioner's office about the thesis have been made by various people. 3 thesis-related lawsuits are pending before the Information Review Tribunal, where international information requests are bottlenecked, while the court reviews its stance on the territoriality of complainants. One of the ICO decisions, issued September 16, 2020, and now before the tribunal, ridiculed critics of President Tsai's thesis and contained a statement. The Commissioner also notes that President Tsai has filed a defamation suit against individuals who have questioned the authenticity of her PhD and thesis. Taipei district prosecutors waited a year to act on President Tsai's complaint, raising an unavoidable question: why? The ICO decision, where Elizabeth Denham, the Information Commissioner, upheld Tsai's right to withhold information about the thesis, relied on Tsai's defamation suit, which had not yet been prosecuted. If prosecutors had not hauled Peng and ordered He into court on October 14th, the ICO statement of September would continue to be false. Although prosecutors cannot be expected to admit they finally acted because of the ICO decision in the United Kingdom, the timing of the decision suggests President Tsai may have been forced to push for prosecution. Dennis Peng, open and defiant, used his court appearance to carry on his running battle with Tsai over the authenticity of her London School of Economics thesis. Tsai planned to use the courts from the beginning merely as a means to intimidate. Her first goal was to put pressure on her opposition. Second, Tsai took legal action right before the presidential election last year as a means to buffer the damage ThesisGate would inflict on her campaign. I believe Tsai knows that she can't win the suit she filed. I would like to remind Tsai and judicial officials that our claims against the president are based on evidence. We have proof to back up our claims. The results of our findings go beyond a shadow of a doubt. Tsai's doctoral thesis and her degree are faked. I hold a PhD from the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Journalism and Mass Communication, teaching at the National Taiwan University's Graduate Institute of Journalism for 20 years, and served as its director. I have advised on over 100 theses, and am thoroughly familiar with the rules and standards they entail. I have continuously questioned Tsai's thesis on the True Voice of Taiwan talk show for over 450 episodes in the name of justice. Over the past year and a half, the True Voice of Taiwan has accumulated 86 million views and reached 660 million people. It most certainly has affected Tsai's reputation. The True Voice of Taiwan exists independently of government oversight. It poses important questions and does not cater to the ruling administration's every whim. I called the prosecutor's office on November 12, 2019 to request a court date. For my crimes listed above, I am asking that the prosecutor sentence me to death. If that is what it takes for this case to be seen through, so be it. For the greater good of this country. Huan Lin, the third professor, provided a video statement to a news conference in Taipei called by Peng following his court appearance. Lin noted that he had not been subpoenaed despite authoring a 50-page report questioning Tsai's thesis. Lin believes that his residency in the United States has kept him out of the courtroom. Lin is very emphatic that he is unafraid of Tsai's defamation lawsuit, as all his remarks are based on his close examination of the thesis itself. Lin is convinced the only reason he was threatened with litigation by Tsai was to scare him into submission and silence him. President Tsai refuses to name the thesis examiners who purportedly approved the thesis in October 1983, although she has said one was a law professor and the other an economist. Tsai's advisor, before she withdrew from LSE, was Michael Elliott, who lacked a PhD himself. At the time, LSE was not qualified to issue doctoral degrees, and the University of London granted diplomas to those students whose name appeared on a pass list. Thus, very little oversight of Tsai's studies had been revealed by either school beyond her name on the pass list. Like the fable where two weeds grow for every one picked, questions about Tsai's thesis continue to multiply, keeping the controversy in court in both Taiwan and the United Kingdom. Taiwan has opened a Pandora's box. Her defense strategy is expected to be a legal challenge over the authority of the prosecutors to silence Tsai's critics. Dennis Peng has made his defense quite clear. In a defamation case, it will be Tsai's thesis that is on trial. This Richardson article is dated December 9, 2020. Republic of China in exile President Tsai Ing-wen posted false online photo caption about her PhD thesis Viva. The caption reads, Republic of China in exile President Tsai Ing-wen posing with her sister sometime in the mid-1980s outside the Cathedral Church of St. Paul in Boston. Tsai claimed this summertime photo was taken in October in London. Pictures don't lie, but sometimes captions do. President Tsai Ing-wen of the Republic of China in exile falsely posted in her online memoir a picture with her sister, which she captioned, My sister came to London for my PhD Viva exam. After Taiwanese news show host Dennis Peng reported on the deceptive photo caption, Tsai changed the caption to read, A picture with my sister. It turns out the supposed London photo was really taken in Boston and had nothing to do with her London School of Economics oral PhD examination. In June 2019, Tsai set off an academic firestorm with the submission of her doctoral dissertation to the LSE library 35 years late. According to library records, Tsai's thesis, entitled Unfair Trade Practices and Safeguard Actions, was never submitted as required. Tsai was granted a PhD degree from the University of London for the thesis, which also was not submitted to the Senate House Library on the strength of her name being on a LSE pass list of doctoral candidates. The London School of Economics was not permitted to issue doctoral degrees, and Tsai's advisor, Michael Elliott, only had a master's degree. The tardy thesis appears to be a draft document with pagination problems, footnote issues, and handwritten entries, including a question mark. According to LSE, a two-member Viva panel examined Tsai about the thesis on Sunday, October 16, 1983. Neither LSE nor Tsai will name the two thesis examiners. The University of London also refuses to name the examiners or the date they approved the thesis. Tsai's photo with the false caption has been offered by her supporters as proof the Viva really happened. The photo of Tsai with her sister was actually taken sometime in a summer month outside of the Cathedral Church of St. Paul in Boston. One doesn't have to be a forensic expert to see that the two sisters are not in London in October. The photo shows the pair in short sleeves, as are other pedestrians. London weather in October tends to be rainy and in the 50 to 60 degree Fahrenheit range. Also, the auto passing behind Tsai in the photograph has the steering wheel on the left instead of the right, as in London. Tsai has fought back hard to quiet the storm, making a criminal defamation complaint against two of her critics, Dennis Peng and He Defen. Her supporters have managed to delete all reference to the ongoing controversy from Tsai's Wikipedia page. Presently, there are 3 different pending appeals to the Information Review Tribunal of the United Kingdom over London School of Economics and the University of London denials of Freedom of Information requests about the PhD Viva panel and the LSE library acquisition of the thesis. Tsai-Ing-wen has not issued a statement about the false photo caption or its correction.
加上蔡英文的自传唯一一张伦敦口试的照片，也被证实是在美国波士顿拍摄。面对种种疑团，美国独立调查记者 Michael Richardson 针对蔡英文的口试委员进行了长期的追踪调查，目前正在和 ICO 进行行政诉讼。英国行政法院也将在2021年的1月中旬展开辩论庭。
Congratulations to Tsai Ing-wen, an LSE graduate who have been elected Taiwan's first female president. 从头到尾没有写 doctor， 也没有告诉人家他是哪一年毕业。这在一个当选了总统，在一个学校像英国伦敦政经学院这样的学校的公关稿是不会犯这样的错误的。好，当这个犯罪集团发现了这个错误之后，我们看下一页。当天就补了一个新闻，叫做 Congratulations on LSE alumna Dr. Tsai Ing-wen as the President-elected。这一看就知道是英文很差的人写的标题，因为总统当选人叫做 President-elect， 不是 elected of Republic of China Taiwan。果然一看这篇文章谁发的呢？下面的小字 From Taiwan Research Program Office。London School of Economics and Political Science， 再看上面的那个发文的单位，大家注意咯。好，上面写了一个 Fan Test，F-A-N-G， 这个是谁呢？这个是蔡英文在英国伦敦的白手套，叫做施方龙。他背后还收受了一笔48万英镑 anonymous donation。待会儿我会跟大家详细的报告，每一句话都有证据。这就是蔡英文到现在为止，他很想抓我，但他抓不到的原因，因为我讲的每句话都是事实。这也是他告我之后完全不敢开庭的原因，因为一开庭就要调查证据。好，下一页这位女士呢，就是我们刚刚讲的蔡英文在伦敦大学的白手套，叫施方龙。好，这2篇是如出一辙，出自她的手笔。我们在节目中讲了很多次了。我们再看下一页，这个就是48万英镑 anonymous donation 的来源。开始查论文门之后呢，有人到了英国的有一个网站叫 whatdotheyknow.com， 就是英国有一个公共网站，只要涉及公共事务，任何人都可以上去问问题，他们会转给有关单位。如果涉及公共事务，那个有关单位必须回答。所以有人就去问说，英国伦敦大学呢，从2007年到2018年所有的捐赠项目明细，结果贴出来了。600笔的捐赠当中，唯一一笔捐赠者不详，叫做 anonymous donor，48万405.71英镑，是2007年开始使用的。 这个 donation 上面写着 donation to fund fellowship for fellowship。第一个，英国伦敦大学没有发生过一笔捐款是捐给个人的。第二个，捐款者是匿名的，没有发生过。后来我们写信去英国伦敦大学问，伦敦大学三缄其口，不敢再说。那这个呢，在英国伦敦大学从头到尾扮演白手套角色，而且，所有的来自英国的所谓校方的新闻稿都是他发的。这个人是谁呢？来，我们这边是一个影像，我们 play 一下，我们来看看他。
The currently is the national flag is ROC flag. So now they only took ROC, but we needed to create the Taiwan flag. We needed to create one. Oh, and this question is depends upon us.
大家可能在去年选前说那个不是英国伦敦大学在上面也不是已经发了声明了吗？好，来我们来看看这个声明。这个声明的标题叫 LSE Statement on PhD of Dr. Tsai Ing-wen。2019年10月8号，大家还记得10月10号连续假期，他就在连续假期前2天丢出这个新闻，然后在台湾的内部网络上马上做大内宣。你看，英国伦敦大学承认蔡英文拥有博士学位。来，我们仔细看看这个骗局是什么呢？第一个，他在这个文里面提到蔡英文的论文曾经被送到一个单位叫 IALS， 就是英国伦敦大学所有的法律科系的博士论文都该被收藏在这里。结果很抱歉，他把 IALS 的拼法给拼错了。IALS 是 Institute of Advanced Legal Studies， 他把它写成 Institute for Advanced Legal Studies。你会觉得说没有关系拼错一个字也没什么了不起。好，但是如果今天是 LSE 的官方单位，他会连自己的学校的单位都会拼错吗？来，我们看下一页。
来，我们看看 IALS 的全名是什么 ？Institute of Advanced Legal Studies。石葫芦看好，它不叫做 Institute for Advanced Legal Studies， 它是 Institute of。所以呢，干间谍工作呢，不可以这么粗心。所以你看，你写的 IALS 叫做 Institute for Advanced Legal Studies， 结果呢？LSE 的网站上跟你凑的是一模一样，也写的是 Institute for Advanced Legal Studies， 所以你知道露馅了吧？
他拼错的方法跟施方龙一模一样。施方龙在他的脸书上面拼过4次跟他一模一样的错误，就是 Institute for Advanced Legal Studies。好，我们再看下一页。而且这一封号称是英国伦敦大学替蔡英文背书的信，竟然被放在一个角落，叫做 in the press。这个 in the press 上一次发文是在2017年的8月份，2年半没有发文，突然被丢进了这个 LSE Statement on PhD of Dr. Tsai Ing-wen。而且 in the press 的意思就是说，从外界得到的新闻报道。所以蔡英文在英国所施展的伎俩就是自己发文自己转载，就跟他现在不管是莱猪也好，中天也好，他会自己在海外发一篇新闻，然后经过多次转载之后拿到台湾来做大内宣。
我觉得最精彩的一个部分是他拿到博士了，在伦敦拿政经学院的博士之后，这很棒了吧，对不对？好了，作者到现场，我们以热烈掌声来欢迎蔡英文主席。
这本书是被逼出来的，诚实的讲我没有意思要出这本书，我一点意思都没有，是我的幕僚逼我他们的意思是说，你如果自己不讲，别人帮你讲更糟，所以那就逼我自己讲，就这样出来了。
当然很多部分，我觉得我会很羡慕，比如他写到某些部分，我会很羡慕 其实我最羡慕的部分是哪一部分，你知道吗？
不知道。
你在伦敦政经学院念书的那个阶段，其实那是非常生硬的一个阶段，但是他写得非常好。我有一段正在看的过程中，我觉得我要是蔡英文多好。这一张，请问一下，哪一个是你？
这个是我。
这个是你。这是我们第一天看到这种照片，它是在幼稚园的照片的。那请问萧美琴是不是跟你同班？这一张从未出现啊，非常豪迈。
这张哪里来的照片啊？
根据我接到的那个信息说明，是你跑到美东去旅游。对，那请问，我现在比较好奇，看到这张照片是摄影者是谁？
这个东西其实就让我发现说，小英主席他真的是跟其他的民进党的前辈不太一样，他不是街头出来的，啊，所以他不是那种，就是说一上台就声嘶力竭的去喊那个口号了这样子的一个政治人物。那这一点我觉得，真的是不一样，而且我很喜欢。
所以我觉得，主席绝对会是我们这个世代的女生值得去学习的一个 role model， 一个典范。那最后我要说的是，我觉得，身为一个编辑，最幸福的事情呢，就是可以编到一本很感动的书，然后也可以散播这种感动给很多的读者。那当编辑最嗨、最爽的事情，就是可以编到偶像的书，而且这一个人会是台湾第一女总统，郑重推荐，谢谢大家。
这个书名之下，就有人帮你弄了一碗洋葱炒蛋，这么丰富，这个没收大，这会不会太大了一点点了？我也觉得，我说你吃一点点就好，你不吃太多了。你继续，你继续。现在开始签书。
我记得我去拿我的证书的时候，我的同学托我拿东西去给他们老师，所以我就拿去给那个老师。那个老师就很好奇说：“哎，你在干什么？”我说：“我刚念完我的博士，我也通过口试。”他说：“Oh, you are a doctor too， 你也是一个 doctor 啊。”那一刹那之间，我就觉得很有虚荣感。那我的伦敦政经学院的校长叫那个时候在英国非常有名，叫 Dr. Dahrendorf， 是一个Professor Dahrendorf 是一个德国人，但是在伦敦政经学院可以做到校长。然后他在英国的 BBC 有个节目叫做 Dahrendorf Umbrella， 就是说一个德国人告诉英国人英国是什么样子嘛。那 Dahrendorf 有一天就请我们一些比较好的学生去喝茶。那他指着我们这一些这种博士班的学生，就是快要完成学业，他说我们都是 young and promising scholars。那你听到这个时候，你心里感觉是不错的啊。所以我拿到我的博士学位，当这个学校老师说 You are a doctor too， 那种感觉是 Yes, I'm a doctor too。结果我就走出学校那一刹那，我就在街上走，结果大概是太高兴了，差点被辆车子撞到。结果那个开车的人很生气，就把头探出来说 ：“You stupid woman！” 我突然回到现实说。